this thing working? Yep, okay. It's changing colors, that's all we need to know. And the rainbow is here. Man, I'll tell you what, that wind was so goddamn strong today, it almost blew the hood off the car. I had to check the way my headlight assemblies are mounted. I slowly opened the hood, and then the goddamn wind caught it, and I was like, oh, that's it. I don't need it to blow over the goddamn windshield. Hey, Kathy's here. All right. Let's get a roll on. Broadcasting live from beautiful downtown Cleveland. It's station WDWL TV, home of not one but two stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, hosted by none other than me, the grumpy old man, and the show is brought to you by Grumpy Vulture Productions. No bowing, thank you. Damn bird. So, how was the freezing ice storm out there in good old triple-digit Arizona? Yeah, I couldn't believe that email. Ron goes, oh, we got ice. Ice. You guys go from triple digits to ice. I thought Cleveland was a goofy state to live in. How was the wind in your area, Kathy? It was house shaking here today. Man, there was some gusts of wind. I was telling Ron, I needed to check the headlight mounts. And I opened the hood very slowly, and a gust of wind caught it, and I was like, whoa! Back down, that's it. Yeah, I happened to find on eBay custom headlight assemblies for my Passat. And as much as I don't want to think about spending that kind of money, oh God, these would make that car look outstanding. So I had to check because it said, will not fit old style. Now, when I order shit, I have to remember that this goddamn car was manufactured in May of 2000. Why it's a 2001, I don't know. In America, it would be a 2000. So I emailed, I messaged the company, and they said, well, depending on this, this, and this. I figured the easiest thing to do would be just to send them a picture of the front end of my car. So that's what I did. And unfortunately, I sent it after they closed. So I'll have to see what the answer is tomorrow. If they say these will definitely fit your vehicle, Grumpy might have to tap into some emergency funds. Oh, these headlights. Well, it's the neat thing is it's the headlight and the turn signal assembly and the park lamp all in one. So you remove the headlight assembly and the turn signal assembly, and this goes all the way around the corner of the fender, and it has the turn signal built into it. And the look on the front end of that car with them custom headlights, but it's a little more than what I wanted to spend. Well, Ron, when you say ice, you got to remember, I live in a state where we have ice like 5 months out of the year. I didn't know ice stood for ice. Well, Ron, you haven't done anything about the Elefucks all this time you're living. Why would you say something now? You're fucking moving out of the place. God, I would have been on that goddamn management like stink on shit. Just keep packing and get ready to move. You know it ain't going to get any better. All you got to keep thinking is, I'm going to be out of here soon. It'll be quiet. It'll be quiet. Had I been living there, that management company would have thought that I owned the place. I'd have been in the office every goddamn morning with video and audio. But we've been over that before. They don't care what the tenants do as long as the tenants pay the rent. Did everybody watch the first 5 minutes of the video that I sent? The YouTube stream I sent with Officer Ghost. I love the name for that dog, Officer Ghost. I love the way the guy screamed like a little girl. And Officer Ghost didn't want to let go either. That was the best part. I watched I watched another. It was about a 30-minute compilation. There was 3 10-minute videos combined into one, and this they capture this guy, and of course they throw him on his face, and he refused to give them his hands. He had his arms under his chest, and they were tugging and tugging and tugging, and finally, I loved it. The canine officer said, Step back, guys. He'll cooperate. Next thing you know, Toro, Officer Toro, he says, Toro, get him. I think that dog took about 3 bites out of the guy's shoulder. Next thing you know, the hands were behind the back. Get him off! Get him off! Get him off! It's amazing how fast they cooperate when either they're getting tased or dog bit. Then the second one was almost as good. They told the guy he was sitting in his car, he refused to get out. And they told him, stick your arms out the window. So he stuck his arms out the window, but he wouldn't get out of the car. So you could see there was a little like whispering going on. And evidently they said, keep his attention that way. And then the guy, the canine officer, slowly went to the other side of the car, put his dog up very carefully on the roof while the guy had his hands up. And next thing you know, Officer Fur Missile took a chomp out of the guy's wrists. And it was amazing how fast he got out of that car. But the last one was the best one. Another guy attempting to go over a fence. And we know where the dog grabbed him. Well, the dog grabbed him just a little lower. And you talk about a blood-curdling scream. And the dog didn't want to let go. And I think we can imagine in our head where the dog caught him as the guy was attempting to leap over the fence. Just by the blood-curdling scream. And then the dog was like, and the screams got worse. When they finally got the dog off of him, the guy was in such a fetal position, he was like locked there. Oh, that must have been a neat trip to the emergency room. Where did the dog bite you? Drop your pants. Oh, man. Those are going to be swollen in the morning. I love police dog videos, especially when they grab certain areas and don't want to let go. Oh, caught that guy just right. When he went to leap over the fence, as he jumped up, he spread his legs. Well, that gave Officer Fur Missile the perfect bite angle. I'll tell you what. I've heard screams from dog bites. I've heard screams from tasing. I have never heard such a blood-curdling scream as I heard when that dog latched onto that guy's balls. There, I said it. And then he didn't want to let go. But the best part was when he went. Of course, in the emergency room, you know, they fuzzed out that area. I would like to see the damage Officer Fur Missile did. All I heard the nurse say was, oh, those are going to be swollen in the morning. No, it was. I'll have to go through my history. It was a video. That's why I was almost late. Between sitting here trying to go, get the thumbnail ready and laughing my ass off. Yet another, you know, I've watched motorcycle chases with motorcycles. And I'll tell you what, the bikers from the California Highway Patrol, they're nuts. I watched a video that makes them look like they're on training wheels. I watched about 45 minutes of police chases in England. Those motorcycle cops are fucking insane. There was one chase, pouring rain. They're doing 145 miles an hour in the pouring rain on motorcycle. I was like, those guys, they got to have balls like this. It was unbelievable. And then they're weaving through them narrow streets, almost hitting cars. I was like, because the officers had helmet cams on, and I was like, whoa. I'm thinking to myself, how did you miss that? How did you avoid that car? And they were like almost laying the bikes on the sides. Those motorcycle cops in England are crazy. Unbelievable. I have another football prepared for dinner. Oh my God, that was the best baked potato. I'll tell you, flavor. I am going back Sunday because my little cutie cashier is working and I want to show her my Harley pictures. I'm going to buy me about a dozen of them. That was the best meal for 99 cents. Now, of course, I got the cheese, I got the butter, the sour cream, the bacon bits, But 99 cents a piece for them footballs. Oh, God, was it? And the skin was nice and done to perfection. Absolutely delicious. I have never had a baked potato with so much flavor. And I'm not talking everything I added in. I'm talking the potato itself. I don't know where they get these monsters from, but Sunday I'm going back and buying about a dozen because I had the baked potato and a bowl of coleslaw, and I was full. That was, I, like I said, there's another one prepped in the kitchen waiting to go in the oven. Absolutely delicious. That might be dinner every night next week. Like I say, I've had baked potatoes since as far back as I can remember. I have never had a potato with the flavor that this thing had. And like I say, it's like a football. It's huge. So Sunday, for 99 cents a piece, oh, I'm going to buy at least 10, if not more. Because I have enough fixings. I got plenty of bacon bits. I got plenty of shredded cheese. I got plenty of pimento cheese spread. Is what I did last night. I cut it in half. Then I carved me a little tunnel in each half. And I took that, put it on the side of the bowl, put a big scoop of pimento cheese spread on the pile of hot potato. Then I put the butter in. I put the shredded 4-cheese blend in. Put a nice spoon full of the pimento cheese spread in. And just kind of waited till it all melted. Then went on the bacon. And then the sour cream and the chives. And what a meal. Absolutely delicious. I didn't get the brakes done today, unfortunately. Ryan's therapy session ran late. So, Monday. I will get the brakes done Monday. That's okay. No problem. Because, see, somebody's got to bring me home. If I didn't have a certain toll driving me crazy, I could walk home. I wouldn't make it a quarter of the way. I'd be screaming like a little girl. Is we changing colors? Yeah, okay. Yep. Let me look at something here. I think I missed something. Oh, I had to check. I thought you said torrent rain and flooding. I had to double check that you said no flooding. I wish there was some way I could enlarge that font. Well, TV2, my potato didn't look exactly like that, but very similar. Very similar. As a matter of fact, I did put on my list when I go to Mark Sunday bacon. Because in the recipe, which, yeah, I did look at a recipe up for baking potatoes, they tell you for the best flavor and for the crispiest skin to slather it in bacon grease. Oh, I can't wait to try that. Fresh baked potatoes slathered in bacon grease. Because when all else fails, add bacon. Yeah, I like twice baked, but that's a lot of work. My one ex used to make them, and she would bake them, and she would get the footballs, and then when it was baked, she would scoop out. You scoop out about 90% because you got to leave some potato, and then she would take what she scooped out, whip it up with. She would add sour cream, butter, shredded cheese, and when it was melted, she would put it in one of those like frosting things and pipe it back into the shell, and then put it under the broiler until it got just a little golden brown on top. And then when it came out of the oven, more butter. I'm not gonna go to that much work. But twice baked potatoes. And I'll tell you what, these potatoes would be great for when you do potato skins. I am going to have to ask the guy in the produce department first of all, what kind of potato is this and where do they get them from? Because I've never, they're huge. They almost look like, I'm trying to think of the yams. They almost look like a yam. They're so big. I've never seen a baking potato oh, that's why I was shocked when I looked at the price and it said 99, and I literally pulled the price thing up to see if it said 99 LB or 99 EA, and it said 99 EA, and I only got two. Sunday, at least 10. Maybe it doesn't. It didn't say. They were just, there's the big vegetable table, and over here is what the hell was on the one side? Avocados and some Mexican fruit or vegetable, and then on the other side was bagged potatoes, and in the middle of this table was this pile of footballs. And I walked around to see if it said, Yukon Gold, Russet, what? Because all the label said was pre-washed baking potatoes, 99 cents each. So Sunday, I'm going to find out what kind of potatoes they are because, they're outstanding. I was tempted to weigh them. I really was. I mean, they are huge. I'm trying to think what to compare it to in size. I would say like a small cantaloupe or maybe a large eggplant. They are huge. I was surprised at 99 cents. But like I say, Sunday, at least 10. At least. Because, first of all, they were delicious. And second of all, it was a meal. I had that whole potato loaded and a bowl of coleslaw. The bowl was a little bigger than this and about that deep, and I had it 3/4 filled. And that I basically was full. After about an hour laying in bed watching TV, I grabbed one of my banana cream pies for dessert, and I was good to go. Of course, my primary care my primary care doctor going in shock, see me laying in bed eating a pie. I don't care. Although I can imagine what the nutritionist is going to say when, give me about a week's worth of dinners. You really want to know? She'll tell me, okay, baked potato, no butter, that's it. What? Okay, low calorie sour cream. Blech. Well, yeah. You know me and dessert. I had a nice they what I'll tell you what, the pies are probably 10 inches in diameter and they cut it in four. So you get a nice wedge of pie. And I think they call it French apple. It had raisins in it. I think it's called French apple. I didn't even pay attention. All I heard was apple. I said, okay. And she goes, would you like a scoop of vanilla ice cream on top? I said, of course. And it was nice and warm. Oh, mmm. Nice flaky crust. Was delicious. And it didn't ruin my appetite for my baked potato. And then after I had my baked potato, I had my banana cream pie. I'm going to have to go up there and see what else, if they got any more than 25 centers. Next thing you know, you'll be setting off the complex smoke alarm. The fire department will be washing your steak with a 2-inch fire hose. Although knowing your apartment complex, they either don't have smoke alarms or they don't have batteries in them. It just sounds to me like that kind of complex. There was one, matter of fact, the guy got caught. There was one apartment complex in Lakewood that the smoke alarms were wired into the 110 rather than battery. And a lot of them were malfunctioning. So what he did was cut the two breakers that powered the smoke alarms for both sides of the building rather than fix the malfunction. And then, typical Lakewood, they did a surprise inspection. And the first apartment they walked into, they had a little smoke generator, and they went, how come the smoke detector didn't go off? Maybe this one's bad. Let's go in the living room. So he went out in his truck and he got his multimeter, popped open the smoke alarm and tested the circuit, went, gee, there's no voltage here. And the guy wasn't too happy to open the door to the basement. They walked over to the breaker box and went, oh, that's why there's no power. The breakers are shut off. They tripped the breakers, turned them back on, and you heard eat, 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 eat. Big fine. I've got mine January 2nd. Every year. Change the battery in all my, because I have them in every room. 9-volt. $1.25. 2 for $1.25. Dollar Tree. So I get what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 batteries. January 2nd, religiously. Even when I live down the street. I have that burned into my mind. January 2nd, every year, change the batteries, whether they're bad or good or whatever. Because out of a lot of shit that scares me, fire is the big one. Because in these old houses, it can get out of hand at the blink of an eye. I would be carrying boots out first, and then my Radio Shack Mach 1 speakers, and then my component stereo system. But I'd be worried about first. Because I've had them speakers since the day they came out. and mine are the first issue, the first generation, because the first generation Radio Shack Mach 1 speakers came with solid cherry wood cabinets. It takes a two-wheeler to move these. That's how heavy they are. Not to mention that goddamn magnet in that subwoofer must have weighed 10 pounds by itself. Because the second year, the cabinets are veneer. Because they were so expensive to make. Not to mention, goddamn things weighed as much as the Titanic. And mine are first generation. And still sound like the day I bought them. Matter of fact, when I talk about them, the younger generation has no idea what I'm talking about. Mach 1 speakers. Are those out of a Mustang? Gargle it. Radio Shack Mach 1 speaker. Not out of a Mustang. I had them. It was either 11 or 12 years. And the foam dried out around the subwoofer. And I was like, holy shit. Well, I found a place that would refoam them speakers. And the guy told me, I'll give you a lifetime guarantee on I don't know where he got the foam from, but that was probably in the late 90s. And that foam is still as soft today as the day he installed it. I don't know where he came up with it, but. And he didn't, well, yeah, it was quite expensive if I look at it, but it was well worth it. Because I don't think there's a speaker on the market that puts out the sound like a Mach 1. I can literally shake the house with them son of a bitches. I haven't played my stereo in a while. I used to play Christmas music. But you hear so goddamn much Christmas music. I have a CD that a friend got me because he he was in Salt Lake City around the holidays. Oh, this has got to be a gazillion years ago. And it was recorded in the church of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. And when you play that CD and close your eyes, you would swear the choir is standing in your house. I used to blast the shit out of that. Matter of fact, I think it's 4 different recordings of, well, I just went blank. Wizards in Winter. Because I really wanted to do a light setup on the front of my house. Until I looked at the price of the computer program and then the cost of all the strings of lights. And I was like, no, thank you. I would have loved to have done a display like that because I think it is so cool. There's videos on YouTube, and I mean, we're talking huge houses. And the lights all. But it's run off of a very expensive computer program, and then you have to buy the interface, and you got to hook all the lights to. Too much work for me. Although I was thinking of making a little one, like a gingerbread house with some LEDs on it. But the program, God, the program for your computer, boy, you got to buy the program, you got to buy the interface. You're looking about almost $1,000, and I was like, I'm cheap. Ron cooks like one of my ex-wives. Every time the smoke detector went off, you knew dinner was done or overdone. Yeah, we're having component dinner. Ron is having the steak. I'm having the baked potato. I guess Kathy gets the green beans. I know I shouldn't ask. My pot holder started yet? I'm all excited about that pot holder. Not so much it being a pot holder, but who made it. That's what I'm excited about. Now, when are you out of there, Ron? April? May? Oh, that sounds tasty. I love pancakes. There's a lot of times I make them for dinner. People look at me like, pancakes for dinner? They're quite filling. Nothing wrong with pancakes for dinner. There isn't nothing on the Aunt Jemima box that says, "Can I eat for dinner?" Although poor Aunt Jemima got retired, she wasn't politically correct, so they took her off the box. Had I known that, I would have bought a box and saved it for posterity. You know, a lot of people don't realize there was a lot of truth in that box. She literally concocted that recipe for light and airy pancakes, and then the woman that she worked for opened a restaurant, and it took off. People were coming in there just for pancakes. And then I can't remember what food company. Wasn't General Mills, was it? There was a big wheel from whatever food company stopped there for breakfast. And the pancakes were so delicious. He went back and he asked the owner, "Where do you buy your mix from?" And they went back in the kitchen, and there was Aunt Jemima cooking, and she said, "It's a family recipe. I make the mix myself." And they offered to pay her. And she was so modest. She was like, "No, no, 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 no." And they finally convinced her. And then they told her, "We're going to put your picture on every box." And she was on boxes of pancake mix for a gazillion years. And then it wasn't politically correct anymore. And poor Aunt Jemima got retired. I can't remember what company. I want to say General Mills, but I might be wrong. Because now it just says, General Mills pancake mix. It don't say Aunt Jemima, because poor Aunt Jemima got booted because they made a movie. Okay, I was wrong. It wasn't General Mills. But it was such a true story, they actually made a goddamn movie of how that came about. And even when she became famous, she basically shunned all the, because she was that humble. Because when they offered to buy the recipe, she was like, "No, I'll just give it to you." Yeah, Ron, but she didn't want the money. She said, here's the recipe. And they said, no, we're going to do this right. They wrote a contract and everything. They put her picture in the box. And then when all this goddamn political correctness hit, it was like, oh, Aunt Jemima's got to go. That's degrading, seeing that picture on the box. But what all these young generation political correctness assholes don't realize, that was true. They didn't just call some black woman in and say, sit down, we want to take your picture. And they wanted to do her hair and her makeup and everything. And she said, no, that's not me. This is me. You know, they ruined history because that was one of the few true stories. That was an actual person. They were like, "Oh, this is oh, no, you got to take that. Oh, get it off the box." So of course they caved in and took poor Aunt Jemima off the box. And like I say, had I known, I'd have bought a box and just saved it for posterity. Yeah, Kathy, if you pay attention, you see very few people on anything anymore. Like, I don't know, did they take the Ivory Snow girl off the box of Ivory Snow? I haven't looked at a box of Ivory Snow in years. That was a real baby for that picture. It wasn't some artist's rendition. They picked out a real baby, snap, you're the Ivory Snow baby. Because I remember, God, she was in her late 40s, early 50s, and some magazine did an interview. And she said, yep, that's me. Everything's got to be politically correct. Yeah, well, yeah. Oh my God, we can't see butt. Get that off of there. That'll offend somebody. God, the copper tone got the. That was basically how you people shop. They went down the shelf. They went, oh, yep, the baby with the ass showing. That's what we want right there. I never knew that. Humphrey Bogart was the Gerber baby, really? Now it's been 40 years since I bought baby food. Is the baby still on the Gerber products? That baby still politically correct? Heaven forbid you show a picture of a dog pulling down a bathing suit and a little butt cheek sticking out. But there's a lot of people. That's the way they used to shop. They would just go down, butt cheek. There we go. That's what we want. Put that in the cart. Pancake mix. Yep, that's what we want. That lady in her do-rag. Yep, put that in there. Let's say we need laundry detergent. The one with the little baby. That's, there we go. Same thing with all the statues, especially the southern states. God, there were statues of generals everywhere. Not no more. Not politically correct. Take that statue down. Put it in a warehouse. Wipe out all the history. Yep, get that statue down. We're going to plant petunias. There. Better. Oh, don't get me started on the political correctness world. Matter of fact, the one day chatting with Annie, I says to her, I said, you know, I could be banned from this store. She said, what? I said, yeah, the way I talk to you, I could be banned from this store. I'm not allowed to say that you're charming and you're a little sweetheart. Nope, that's not politically correct. She said, well, I appreciate the the compliment. I like to make her blush too. But I told her, I said, all you would have to do is go to manager and say, hey, he's offending me. And they would ban me from this store. Maybe all Walmart stores. Because you're not allowed to say that. God, the shit that back in the 70s when I worked for the county, holy Christ. The whole office would have been fired. Of course, there was no such thing as politically correct back in the 70s. Christ, I'd walk in the morning and hug all the girls, especially Cleopatra. She was crazy. You could tell a girl, gee, that's a beautiful dress you're wearing. Nowadays, fired. You can't tell a girl she's wearing nice clothes. You can't comment about her hair, her makeup. Nope, fired. I wouldn't last 2 minutes in today's work world. Yeah, right, Kathy. And some of them women did. I mean, I'm serious. I would walk in the morning before the office opened. and, chat with the women and give them a little hug, Cleopatra, oh, she was about 6'5", 6'6", craziest black woman I ever, oh, she was crazy. She was crazy. And some of the, oh, man, one of the women, her name was Marge Skunsk. 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 She had a mouth on her like a truck driver. And some of the stuff that she would, oh, she'd make the whole office laugh. But you couldn't, oh, today, none of that, oh, I wouldn't last 5 minutes. It would be nothing for me to have my arm around two women at the same time. Different time. Different time. I tell some of the young kids about the way it was back then, and they're in shock. Some of them women could tell dirtier jokes than men. It was, I'll tell you what, it was a fun job. It really was. It, and it was a county office. You would think, oh, there'd be a little more decorum. No. We laughed every day in that office. Every day. I mean, the mix of people was unbelievable. But like I say, couldn't do that shit today. Couldn't get away with that shit today. The light went out in my keyboard. I was like, supposed to be glowing. Yes, I have a. Grumpy. I have to have a keyboard that changes color. It's glowing. That's my keyboard. If it has lights, Grumpy has it. Oh, Kathy, I forgot to tell you. Guess what we got working? It's working again. I got a hold of tech support. They told me how to fix it. It didn't say in the instructions that every so often you have to clean the electric eye underneath the roller ball. So I popped it out and I took a Q-tip and cleaned it the way they told me and popped it back in and turned it on and voila! It's working again. I won't have to buy a new one, although I would love to have that one. But yeah, every so often you have to pop the ball out and clean the electric eye because it builds up with oil from your skin. So I had to take alcohol and clean the roller ball, and then I had to gently clean the little electric eye underneath. And I told him, I said, that should have been in the instruction manual. I said, here, I was getting ready to throw the thing away. The guy said, oh, no. He said, pop the ball out, clean it with alcohol, and then gently put a little bit of alcohol on a Q-tip and clean the electric eye. And he said, it'll work. And I did it, popped the ball in, turned it on. Oh, there was my cursor going all over the screen. So I don't have to spend $28. It surprised me when they emailed me a phone number and told me to call tech support. And I called, and they were very nice people to talk to. Matter of fact, I didn't have to press 1, press 6, yell this. Well, enjoy every bite, Ron. I'm glad to hear it's nice and flavorful. I've been tempted to buy a steak. I really am. Maybe I'll see what is in the meat case Sunday. I haven't had a steak in a couple of years. Although price of meat scares the shit out of you. Thank God we're not living in Florida around a Publix. I'd be spending a week's worth of shopping money for one steak. I would like to see how many people are actually buying any meat in Publix. They probably walk past that meat case and go, not here, not here. Take your steaks and shove 'em. We ain't buying here no more. I have been seeing commercials for a new grocery store. I'm going to have to pay attention to the name. But it's like a food outlet. I mean, it's like a regular grocery store with outlet prices. I'm going to have to get the name and then see if there's any around here. It's something outlet, grocery outlet, or something like that. I guess maybe I should pay attention to the commercials. Although when I drove down the street the other day, the Walgreens at 130th and Bel Air is now going to be some grocery store. I saw the sign coming soon, something grocery, and it's a new place. that what it is? United Grocery Outlet? Something like that. They run the commercial a couple of times every night. I'll have to write it down. Christ, I got a pen and a notepad on my nightstand. You think, oh, write this down and look into it. Same thing with that grocery store going in at the old Walgreens, which I'm glad to see. At least it won't be a building sitting empty. But it all depends on what kind of grocery store goes in there. I can't remember up on Lakewood Heights Boulevard if it was. I think it was an old pick and pay store. I might be wrong, but there's a Spanish supermarket in there. And I've gone in there many times, and I was quite surprised at the prices and that a lot of stuff they carry, because a lot of it's in Spanish and I don't know what the hell it is. I like the bakery department myself. And their meat prices are very reasonable. But there's some guys behind the meat counter that no speak of English at all. Yeah, I'm going to have to pay attention to the name, because it's some sort of outlet. Yeah, there's a possibility you go in and one day they got kumquats and then you never see them again. Or oddly cut loaves of bread. That's like this place I see. It's an online, and the commercial starts out, "What's wrong with these buns?" And they're brioche buns, and there's like a divot in the bottom. And they say, there's nothing wrong with them. It's just a little divot in the bottom of the bun. And you get them for like 1/4 of what the price would be. Oh, I didn't think of that. That could be why it's cheap. You buy it and it expires a day later. That's if we even have any around here. A lot of times they run these commercials and the closest store is in Columbus. But I'm kind of interested, whatever this grocery store is that's going in at the Walgreens. I'll have to. They're. I'll tell you what. When I drove past the other day, it looked like they were getting pretty close to opening. I'll have to go in and check it out. But I'm glad to see the store isn't sitting empty. But that neighborhood isn't the best. Like, where they put Dollar Tree. It's not really a great area. I definitely don't go to Dollar Tree at night. We'll just say that. But it was a vacant lot for years, and it was a dumping zone. And the city of Cleveland, I don't know how they Shanghai Dollar Tree, but they told them, we'll we'll give you the property, we'll build a building, and you get like 10-year tax abatement. So they literally begged somebody to put, they said, hey, we'll build you a store. The city did. They built a store. Mainly to stop it from being a dump. But it's not in the greatest of areas. Because right across the street is a Somali center. And every Saturday, there's like two or three 40-foot semi trailers full of food that they give away. But not to me, like me. I went over there. I said, hey, can I get in line? No, you're not Somali. Oh, okay. I'm just some poor old goddamn Social Security person. I can't get a free melon? No. You have to be Somali. Okay. I stay away from there on the weekends. The thing that irritates me is the poor Somalis that are pulling up in their Lexuses, Beamers, and Mercedes. Okay, back your Mercedes SL 550 up here. We'll give you them free food. Bridge Avenue, if she lived on Bridge, that's Ohio City. And yeah, not the greatest of neighborhoods. And if she lived in east on the east side, uh, but if it's Bridge, then that's over in the Ohio City area, and you don't go in there in the dark. Yeah, Cleveland's got a lot of declining neighborhoods, and like I say, the area that Dollar Tree and Dollar General, you don't drive in that area at night. That's why I make sure if I'm going to Dollar Tree, I go between like 1 and 3. Yeah, I changed the lighting. Let me move this way. I changed the lighting to light up mainly the bridge, but then over here, but it was too much all the way across. That's why I put the red, although I got to tone the red down a little bit. But yeah, I really wanted to light all this area up. Although the bridge is white. I mean, that's an actual, they didn't colorize. The bridge is white. But the way I had it lit before, it was, I wanted to, like I say, this area has a lot of meaning to me. Mainly this area right here at the end of the bridge. Because this is where my grandfather's beat was. Not to mention my other, grandfather built this building. So both my grandfathers were right in this area, and it has a lot of. That's why I really appreciate you sending this, because you have no idea how much this backdrop means as far as family history. I mean, this area downtown has a lot of family history for me. Not to mention, I worked downtown too, my first job out of high school. So that's why I played with the lighting. I gotta soften this. It's a little too red, but it was a little too white. So I'm working on this side. But I got this side right where I want it. Well, see, Ron, when I made the comment, it was just an offhanded comment. I can't find a Cleveland backdrop. And at the time I mentioned it, the family history didn't play into the comment. It was like, I'm in Cleveland, and I kept saying, broadcasting from Cleveland, and I had New York backdrops and dinosaurs, and so I just made the offhanded comment. It would be nice to have a Cleveland background, but I couldn't find one. Not that I really didn't put a lot of looking into it. And then, you find it, you send it, and the more I looked at it, I was like, wait a minute. My grandfather helped build the Terminal Tower, which they call Tower City. I call it the Terminal Tower. And then, my mother's father was a Cleveland beat cop. He was in the mounted unit. And in the morning, he directed traffic at the foot of this bridge because there was no traffic light at the time. So this means a lot to me. It really does. No. That's where they put the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They tore it down. And they built the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And then they built a new dock for the Good Time 3. But Captain Frank's is gone. A lot of people were up in arms because Captain Frank's was a landmark. But then they were like, oh, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Oh, okay, tear it down. I'll help you drive the bulldozer. Well, you know, when they technically they could have left it because the way that they laid out the Rock and Roll Hall and the dock, they could have left that restaurant. But the family really, they wanted the money. They looked at it like restaurant, money, restaurant, money, restaurant, money. We'll take the money, tear it down. Oh God, I can't count how many meals I had at that restaurant. I'd go there for lunch. Oh, they had the best crab cakes. Oh my God. I go there for lunch, and a bunch of us from the title bureau would get together and go there for dinner. Yeah, it was an icon. But now that's, like I say, the new dock for the Good Time 3 and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame are right there. You know, if they had just torn it down, people would have really protested it. But to get something like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, although, the I can't remember the disc jockey's name that coined the phrase rock and roll was here in Cleveland. This is where rock and roll started, that term. So there really was not another place to build the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame than here in Cleveland. And if I remember right, that disc jockey ended up going down in shame because he was involved in a payola scheme to play certain music for certain record companies. I can't remember his name, but but that term was coined here in Cleveland. They were thinking of putting the Rock and Roll Hall like in New York or California, and everybody, was like, no, this is the place for it, right here. And I mean, it is a fantastic place. I've been through it several times. but there was no logistically. This was the only city you could put that. Alan Freed. Yep. That's him. He just offhanded one night said, this station, the home of rock and roll. And everybody's like, rock and roll? And he started using it, and then rock and roll was everywhere. As a matter of fact, there is some memorabilia of his that is like enshrined in the museum because they changed the exhibits continuously, except he's like got his own little corner. I can't remember what memorabilia is there, but yeah, it's even though he ended up going down in shame. I'm glad that they enshrined him and that his memorabilia never moves. The whole museum changes every year, except that corner. But to have a career like he did, and then get caught in a payola scheme. But when people dangle money in front of your face, sometimes you can't be 100% honest. And at the time, he didn't really think it was wrong. He knew taking the money, but like he said, I'm promoting this artist, except he was getting paid, which is a no-no. Really? Boy, Lynxford, you've been all around the country, haven't you? How did you ever end up in Arizona? Easy. Had to make sure I didn't mute it. I'm trying to think, what is Missoula, Montana famous for? I've heard that name many times over the years. I guess I'll have to gargle it. Well, Ron, what you're going to have to do is take a little vacation. And go to Oklahoma. do like a couple-day trip, go to Oklahoma, then wait till summertime and go to Alaska. Although Alaska's not easy to get to. And Hawaii, everybody's dream. A friend of mine's son lives in Oahu. And it must be nice to walk around in shorts, a t-shirt, and a flip-flop 365 days a year. Yeah, they should make a little monument. Former home of Kaiser. I wonder if his mother still lives there. Because I'm sure they don't leave her alone. You don't hear any more about him. You would think somebody would be like writing him in prison and doing a YouTube show, reading his letters. I took roll call in cell block 10 last night. Well, I like the seasons, but the problem is in Cleveland you have two: winter and after winter. Oh, really? I didn't know they did. Where'd they ship them to now? You know, Kathy, I I love to remind people, when like it's 90 degrees outside and people are bitching about, oh God, it's so fucking hot. I tell them, well, yeah, in December it was 14 degrees. Which one do you want? Quit complaining. We go from 98 degrees to 10 degrees. People are bitching. Well, I didn't know that. Well, after we got locked up, there was nothing to follow. But you would think, one of his loyal followers would be, like writing to him. And then, he could start a YouTube channel, Letters from Kaiser. I just think about all them loyal followers that he had that were literally paying monthly and believing his bullshit. Like good old Glenn Harlow doing 3 or 4 or 5 super chats a night just so he could hear his name. And we have a super chat from Glenn Harlow, who says hi. And Glenn's sitting there going, oh boy, I'll wait like 20 minutes and do another super chat so I can hear him mention my name. You don't hear about them people like AZ Jeep Girl, you know. She was supposed to be a lawyer. All them people that were paying monthly. Not just being a subscriber, being a joiner and paying what? $5 a month? $10 a month? It would be nice to be monetized, but I'll never get to that rate. What do you have to have? 5,000 subscribers in order to monetize? I'm lucky I'll ever see 500. But it's small and cozy. I'll say that. When you get up in the tens of thousands, it gets unmanageable. Too many people you have to please, you know. And you got to watch what you say. Well, even at 1,000, I ain't never going to see that. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Because there are people out there that still think he's innocent. So, yeah, I bet you he's got a lot of his people putting money on his books. I wouldn't doubt it. Because you got them loyal people that he did nothing wrong. I still can't believe there's people out there that think that he got railroaded. First of all, the big thing, he jumped bond. He didn't have permission to leave the state. And then I can't believe his bondsman didn't give a shit. And it wasn't like he was hiding. The whole world knew where he was, except his bondsman. I just hope an indictment comes down this year. I really do. I hope a certain indictment comes down this year. And I hope the prosecutor isn't sitting there going, he's in jail anyway, he's in prison. No. What do you get? 5 years? Although maybe they're waiting. Maybe the prosecutor is holding back. And then the day he gets released, he'll be, I'm free. Click, click. I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that in the least. They're waiting until he serves his time. And then he'll step outside that gate and go, "Mommy, I'm coming home." Click, click. No, you're not. I'll have to email Shiz. If anybody knows what's going on, it's her. Well, they couldn't. You know, it's happened before. It's happened to other people before. They stepped outside the gate, and by the time they got to the parking lot, they were in silver bracelets. So the prosecutor could be doing that. We'll just wait. We got time. He ain't going nowhere. I'd like to see the look on his face. I'm free. Click, click. Hey. Oh. As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, both of my phones are consumer cellular. I got my SIM card at 3:30. I was immediately on the phone with consumer saying, "Let's get rid of Spectrum." And by 4:05, both phones back to consumer. And then you need a transfer pin. Well, the transfer pin expired because the SIM card was a day late. So I had to call and get a new transfer pin. Now, their cellular division is separate and apart from their internet. So I had to call Spectrum Cellular. I said, "I need a new transfer pin because it expired." "Are you really sure you want to leave us?" You know, it almost sounded like T-Mobile. You know, we're 5G. I said, "Yeah, everybody's 5G. Well, we might be able to work you a deal." I said, "If you were going to work me a deal, you had the chance to work me a deal the other day. You didn't work me a deal. I told you I'm leaving." "Oh, hold on." I was on hold for about 18 and a half minutes. "Here's your new transfer pin. Sorry to see you leave." Then, sneaky bastards. They give me a new transfer pin. It was only good for 15 minutes. By the time the guy got all the information input into the computer at consumer, the transfer pin expired. We tested the phone and it wouldn't go through. He said, "Give me that pin number again." I give him the pin number, failed. So he said, "I'll call Spectrum." So he called. in the meantime, I had, and you know, taking them SIM cards is a pain in the ass. I had to take the consumer cellular SIM card out of that little holder and carefully put the Spectrum SIM card back in so that they could text message me the new transfer PIN number. So I get the new PIN number, and I got the guy. Luckily, I had two phones. I got him on the other phone. He said, all right, while you're on the phone with me, power off that phone, switch the SIM card, power it back on. I'm trying to put the SIM card in the little holder, and I dropped the fucking thing. And I'm looking all over the floor for this little tiny thing. Finally, I find it. I put it in the holder, put it in the phone, powered the phone on. He says, all right, I'm going to put the transfer pin in now. What do you see? What's your signal? Nothing. He said, nothing. I said, yeah, I got nothing. Power the phone off. Power the phone off. Wait 3 minutes. Power the phone back on. All right, let's do a test call. Call this number. Call the number. It doesn't even ring. It immediately hangs up. He says, power the phone off. Power the phone off. Wait 3 minutes. Power the phone back on. Make a test call. It immediately hangs up. I said, what's going on? He said, for some reason, the new transfer pin that we just got isn't working. I said, you mean to tell me I got to put that stinking SIM card back in again? He said, yep, because they'll only send it by text. And in order to get the little door open, you got this like pin. You have to stick this here. Wait a minute. Get out of the way. You have this little pin that you stick in the side of the phone, and it pops the little door open. So I do it again, pop the door open. I laid out a piece of paper on the desk so that if I dropped the SIM card, it would land on the piece of paper and not bounce off it. I put the Spectrum SIM card in again. He called Spectrum again. And he says, I hear him talking to the girl. Can you give us a little longer than 15 minutes on the transfer? She says, okay, I'll do 30. Good. She sends the transfer pin via text message. She hangs up. He said, power off the phone. I power off the phone. Stick the little pin in. Open the door. Take the Spectrum SIM card out. Put the consumer SIM card in. Stick it in the phone. Close the door. Power the phone on. He says, phone powered up? I said, yep. He says, all right, I'm going to put the new transfer pin in. I hear him hitting the keyboard. All right, power the phone off. Power the phone off. Wait 3 minutes. Power the phone on. All right. Make a test call. Phone's ringing. Okay, it's ringing. Next thing you know, a recorded voice comes on. Your consumer cellular service has now been activated. You can make your calls now. Thank you. So I hang up. And he said, make a test call. So I called the other phone. And the phone starts ringing. And he goes, You're good to go. I said, thank God. I said, if I had to pop that SIM card out one more time, I was going to throw the phone in the garbage. Give you a pin that only lasts 15 minutes. Basically, what it boiled down to was they didn't want me to leave. So now both phones are back where they belong. And then the 19th is when they're going to cut my internet speed in half. So we'll see what happens. No, I didn't, Kathy. We just knew it was working, and both him and I were happy. But what a pain in the ass. Because, they're what they call nano SIMs. And they're about the size of your fingernail. Little dipsy doodle, and you gotta make sure it goes in the holder the right way, because one little corner is cut off. And then make sure it snaps in, and then gently put the holder back in the phone. I said, it's a pain in the ass with no feeling in your hands. When I went to change it the one time, it popped out and it went, oh no. I said, I thank God boots didn't see it. He'd have run in here, grabbed it, and taken off with it. But finally, both phones are where they belong. Consumer cellular. That's like when I was up at the store, talking to Annie. I said, who's your cell phone service? She said, Verizon. I said, what are you paying? She goes, oh, it's like $65 a month. I said, when's your contract up? I think the end of February. I gave her the number for consumer. I said, here, call them. She said, consumer cellular, that's for seniors. I said, no. Anybody. They're a cell phone provider. Anybody. You, at 19, can be with consumer cellular. $25 a month. Unlimited talk, text, data. Keep that card. See, the problem is, years ago, consumer cellular was for seniors. Now they've opened it up to anybody. But people have that idea that, oh, that's only for senior citizens. Oh, I'll tell you what, when that card popped out, I'm looking for the, it looks like lint on the floor. Where did the thing go? And then it happens to fall with the gold side up. And I've got like gold carpeting. And I'm looking all over for this thing, like where did it go? So I got the flashlight and I saw a glimmer on the floor and I went, look, there it is. Although my other Moto G stylus has what they call an eSIM. They do it over the air. You don't. As a matter of fact, the SIM card slot on my first Moto G has two slots. And one is for the SIM card, and then the other one is for a TFT card. A little data card. Well, my newer Moto G only has one slot because there's no SIM card. So I put my little micro SD card in because I save all my photos to the micro SD card. But the other phone has a dual slot. So as I'm popping the SIM card out, the micro SD card pops out. I put that micro SD card in, then I'm trying to get the damn SIM card in, and the micro SD card won't go in. I'm like, thank God that's done. No more. But see, the newer phones don't use SIM cards. Everything's done over the air, eSIM, which was really great because all I had to do was power the phone on and everything magically appeared. So I have one phone with a SIM card and one with an eSIM card. But that's it. We're done, 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 done. No more of this. Give us a cell phone and you'll get a great discount. Yeah, you'll screw me at the end of the discount, so the hell with you. Well, I think it's baked potato time. night, everybody. Thanks for being here. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. And we will meet again right here, the home of 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. At the same time tomorrow night. And just remember, since they updated OBS, 2 see yas. See you 1. And see you 2.